Welcome to 303 Garage Talks. Here with Lance Panigutti, 3 weeks or so removed from our last conversation. Feels like 3 months, and the world keeps turning in new ways. And I know you wanted to get on here and talk a little bit about what's happening, and it's a great timing, but not with great news necessarily.
No, thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, come on, way to come back, and let's just kind of dust off where things are at, and talk about where you are as a company. And you had a cycling race that was canceled last time we talked, but now we've had more cancellations of cycling and some other news to share, and let's just dive right into it.
Yeah. I mean, last time we met I went back and it was a month ago. Yeah. And it was even a different world a month ago than it is now. And I love you, Bill, but I was really hoping I didn't have to sit in your garage again, because we knew when we left that if we had to do this again, it was probably going to be bad news. And unfortunately, it's been a whirlwind of the last month. At that time, we had our Louisville Criterium race get canceled. That was supposed to be the end of March. Since that time, our remaining 4 road cycling races have all been canceled. And it kind of felt like dominoes. The first one was the Buff Gold Road race, early April, then our Koppenberg race at the end of April. And that was because Boulder County suspended all event permits through May 10th. Okay. Then all of a sudden, we were still optimistic. We said, you know what? We got the Superior Morgul. That's mid-May. Keep the wheels turning. Keep the planning going. And then, boom, USA Cycling issued a statement and suspended all event permits to the end of May. So effectively, that was the fastest road cycling season in our 13-year history. We didn't have any crashes. We didn't have any complaints, but we didn't have any racing either. So it was definitely a blow. And looking back, those races, they don't really have a lot of pre-registration to deal with. So fortunately, from an athlete standpoint, there wasn't a lot of, what's going to happen now? Right. Unfortunately, there was also a lot of severe, heavy financial losses.
Well, I mean, just like any business, you have fixed cost, you have variable cost, and cycling is a part of your portfolio of events, along with triathlon and cyclocross. And I know it's not your primary, but it's important. So talk about the damage that did to your revenue.
I mean, it stings. I mean, you look at it, that's 3 months worth of races completely gone, and now I'm sitting with a warehouse full of awards and everything else. But at the end of the day, I mean, it forced us to get creative. Back in March, after we first met, I said, you know what assets do I have sitting in our warehouse that have kind of built up over the years that we don't need that we can sell? I was able to sell 2 trailers that we rarely use. I was able to kind of dust out a lot of corners of the warehouse and say, all right, here's some Outdoor Divas visors. Can I sell those? 10 visors here, 10 hats there. It helps. Right. And then the biggest thing that came out of that was it forced me to turn back the clock. And I'm kind of a history nerd to begin with, and say, all right, what was life like for Without Limits back in 2007 when I started the company with my brother? At the time, I was a swim coach, pro triathlete. He had just gotten laid off from the mortgage industry, and it was the middle of the 2008 recession. That's the climate that we started this company in. We didn't have a big surplus of money to buy anything. I was making awards. We were literally storing swim buoys and barricades in our apartment. And looking back on that and trying to put myself back in that mindset, it got me thinking, all right, if we went through that once, we can do it again. We can get creative again.
Right.
And just turning the wheels of, let's start bootstrapping it.
Sort of like if you talk to somebody that was about 95 years old who remembers living in the Depression, they're probably way better equipped to handle this than we are, because they've been there. You've been there. And
I've leaned on a lot of close friends in the industry, whether they're vendors, sponsors, I mean, you name it. Other triathletes. Cam Dye is a really close friend. And he reminded me, he's like, Lance, you started in 2008. If you could get through that recession, you're going to be able to creatively come up with solutions to get through this one too, and we'll see you on the other side. One of the things I did back then too was I said, you know what? There has to be a commitment to my staff. They've put in so much work on these events, whether they're road cycling races or triathlons, and we're going to start talking about triathlon here very soon.
Right.
But Olympia, great example. She's been our volunteer director for every single triathlon. She's been working on those races since October. I told her flat out, you are getting paid for every single event, whether they get canceled or not, because I'm not going to turn around and say, you know what? I know you've been working on this since October, but sorry, there's no more money, and cut things off. I stopped taking a salary from the company at the end of February when things broke out. And I'm not saying that because I'm looking for sympathy.
Right.
I'm saying it because I want to give Without Limits the best possible chance to succeed on the other side. Some people have kids. My wife and I don't. This is my baby. Yeah. And I want to see my baby continue to grow up.
Well, I'm the same route. I mean, I pay other people. I haven't paid myself for a while.
To me,
that's how we got to do, right?
Yeah. And my celebration is going to be to take a salary again from the company when I'm back on a start line announcing a race.
So talk about the community that you're in. I'll call it the professional community, where other race directors and other people that help put these events on around the state. And you guys, I know, talk and you have meetings and you try to coordinate with things and you look at schedules and you help each other out where you can. And what's the climate in the rest of the community, not necessarily speaking for anybody else's P&L, but what are you seeing out there?
It's an amazing community. I mean, I've gotten so much closer to a lot of people that I'd consider acquaintances before. And I've always said crisis reveals character. You can't hide behind what happens because your actions are going to show what you really thought of things. And the conversations I've had with Tim Brocious, former Ironman race director, now he's with Lifetime Fitness in Leadville. He has been amazing. Peggy, Lake to Lake, Darren and Jill from Racing Underground, I always considered family. And now I almost feel like their second son because I keep calling them every other day. What do you think about this? How does this look? How would this impact you? What about this date? In terms of timing, I know your calendar's getting filled. And it's been an amazing resource to lean on these people and have them lean on me too. Sometimes they're just having a bad day and want to vent. And that's okay to pick up the phone and call another race director and vent for 30 minutes and not have anything that I can offer them.
Yeah.
And then there's been a lot of, I've seen the gamut in the race director community in the last 2 months. I've seen events cancel and literally stick behind their no refund policy. I'm not here to judge it. I don't know what their P&L looks like. I've also seen companies literally take this situation and offer a discount code and entice people to register for their events. To me, that's reckless and it's irresponsible. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of event there is. It doesn't matter if it's in June, July, September, October. How can you knowingly ask someone to register for your event and say, you know what, register without a disclaimer of you might not see your money again because they truly don't know, what's going to happen. And offering a discount code, it's kind of a slap in the face to all of a sudden all the people who before this broke out paid full price. So to me, the most prudent thing to do is if people want to register for a race, they can register, but I'm not going to sit here, and I know Tim's in the same boat, Peggy's in the same boat, Darren and Jill. We're not going to ask people to register for anything until we have concrete answers of what is exactly going to happen. And one of the things I kind of learned from Tim and bounced back and forth was, what's the mark where we need a solid answer from a permitting agency of this is a go or not a go to let the athletes prepare. And for us, we created a 30-day model.
I was going to ask you that question. So Ironman Canada canceled recently, and that's August 23rd. And the reason they canceled was that the country of Canada has said no sporting events, no concerts, no major cultural social gatherings till August 31st. So they had no choice in the matter. We're around here, it's still kind of a fresh look every week because you're hoping, you're not sure. So how are you looking at with your other events?
Even in Colorado, even though there is a statewide stay-at-home order, every single municipality, county, city is handling things a little bit differently. They're on a different timeline. So it's kind of a juggling act right now. I have 10 triathlon events, and I'm dealing with about 6 to 7 different municipalities and permitting agencies. The hardest part of this entire thing is when I got the call from the Boulder Reservoir director about Colorado Tri effectively having to be canceled because they suspended citywide all events until June 15th. Okay. I mean, she used to be the decision maker. And even I'm having a laugh and a cry with her over the phone of it's out of her hands. She's getting her marching orders from agencies that she's never had to deal with before. She's having to furlough the majority of her staff. So, I mean, the impact isn't just events. It's community-wide in every single corner that we look.
Why do you suppose they chose June 15th? Did she elaborate on that?
It's just a deadline. I mean,
nothing concrete, just a date.
Just a date. Just like USA Cycling suspended things to May 30th, and they could review that, but it was just a target out in the future that said, all right, now we can review things if 2 weeks out from that.
So you guys, you're going to say 30 days prior to an event is when you're going to make a decision.
Correct. Even if I don't know if it's going to happen or not, if they can't give me a concrete answer, To me, that's the deadline where I have to be able to tell athletes, this is going to happen, this is going to be postponed, this is your options, or it's a go.
And you have a no refund policy on events that are canceled out 2 weeks out. And then you offer a credit for events that are canceled within a 2-week period of $25, I believe. How are you going to manage that moving forward? Because you're always really fair, and you always try your hardest to give everybody the best value. I know that. But sometimes you have to stick to your guns.
I mean, that's been the hardest thing. I mean, since we get the Colorado Triathlon news, even before that, I was creating budgets for the entire season. And the event planning was still going on, but we were creating 3 sets of budgets. And one budget looked at, all right, if no events happen in June, what can we offer? What can we do to make sure events still happen in 2021? Then we created a budget that said, what if this is pushed out to the end of July? And then my doomsday budget was, what if there's just no events at all in 2020? What does that look like? And then the hardest part was we took those budgets, and on top of those, we had to layer on how many additional registrations we're going to get, because nothing is really sold out at this point.
Right.
So one thing a lot of registration money is already out the door before a race happens. So we're taking the risk and projecting of, well, we're going to hit this certain break-even mark, and no race has really hit that yet.
Well, when you were before we aired, we were just chatting a little bit, and you mentioned that you're so excited because you have 10,000 medals almost ready to get to be delivered. Talk about some of the fixed cost of a race that maybe people don't understand, like medals, of course, but also maybe permits. I mean, when do you give money to the cities or the counties, and do they give it back? And how does that all work?
A lot of it's in January, and there's a lot of other costs. There's business insurance for the equipment. There's warehouse storage rent, and there's pint glasses. I got 5,000 pint glasses sitting in a warehouse now.
Right. What about so like you can see car insurance companies now saying we will offer you a little bit of discount because we really can't drive a whole lot. Do you get that same consideration for event insurance or for anything else?
Not for event insurance, but we obviously have all our trucks and trailers. So that insurance has been mitigated a little bit.
Do you see a day where maybe they'll start to have options for things that are like this?
They used to.
They used to.
They used to. And it was actually taken out after swine flu in 2009.
Really?
All the event insurance language was completely changed after that.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep. It was also changed after 9/11 to take out terrorism.
Wow.
So just to focus on the Colorado Triathlon, because
I
I know there's a lot of questions out there. That's the main reason we kind of sat down. What we did was we looked at postponing. We looked at additional dates, but the problem with that is we're dealing with all our events as it is. So there wasn't a lot of holes we could play with. And then you're dealing with lining up the timing company, your medical company, state, city, and county permits, and not overlapping on other existing races. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible.
So did you think about adding it into Harvest Moon or to...
We did.
Yeah.
Created a whole new bike course for Harvest Moon. And we were able to say, you know what, Colorado Tri is going to merge with Harvest Moon. And we're going to have a sprint, an Olympic, and a long course. Unfortunately, the long course won't be a 56-mile bike course anymore. And I looked at that and said, you know what? That's too far out there, and that's not fair to the athletes who signed up for Harvest Moon expecting a long course experience. Right. That's in September. Knock on wood, that's not going to be affected. So then we looked at, what if we combine Colorado Tri with Boulder Peak? And we started going through the motions. And the biggest motion that we first started with was our title sponsor. Boulder Sports Chiropractic has been amazing. They're a small company, and they work with athletes like Flora Duffy, Tim Don, a lot of local triathletes, and obviously their business is affected by this. And they agreed to support us with whatever decision we made if we wanted to combine it with Boulder Peak. So for all the athletes out there that are looking for amazing chiropractic care, they want to stay local and support a local firm that works with some of the best athletes out there. And they take an approach of not just treating symptoms, they want to get to the biomechanical root of why someone is injured. So check out bouldersportschiro.com.
So it was the Boulder Chiropractic Colorado Tri?
Correct. Boulder Sports Chiropractic, Colorado Tri.
So talk about the sponsors, because they're obviously a huge part of this.
And most of our sponsors are local. I mean, it's companies like that. It's companies like Colorado Multisport. A lot of people don't realize that was our first ever sponsor. We got a $600 check in 2008, and that's what started Without Limits. Without that, probably wouldn't have started those first 3 triathlons that year because we had nothing else in the bank. So talk to the sponsors, talk to the towns, all the permitting agencies, and then all of a sudden we were thrown a curveball of there was construction scheduled for Old Stage that was supposed to be wrapped up by the end of May. We've known about this for the last couple months. We've known about this since December. but it was going to be wrapped up well in advance of the race. Because of Corona, things are delayed. We know how traffic schedules work. Not going to be wrapped up potentially till mid-July. So all of a sudden we lost Old Stage at the same time. And I'm going through that, and on paper I'm like, you know what? I want to take Colorado Tri. I want to give those athletes the option to move to July 12th seamlessly, but I want to make sure there's a sprint distance involved, because what number one concern right now is people swimming.
Right.
I want to make sure there's an Olympic distance involved, and I want to make sure there's duathlon options involved, so people who are concerned that they're not able to get in the pool right now can still participate. So what we're doing is we're giving people a handful of options. All the hoodies, in the Colorado Tri is famous for the hoodies.
Right, yeah, I got one.
It's a kick-ass hoodie this year.
Right.
That'll be mailed out. Okay. It'll be mailed out with a promotion from Boulder Sports Cairo. It'll be mailed out with the Colorado Triathlon sticker to everyone who is registered. If they want to, and we're going to give a deadline, and that's going to be in the next email, if they want to, they can seamlessly transition to Boulder Peak, which will be a sprint distance, an Olympic distance. It'll have a duathlon option for the sprint and the Olympic distance if they're worried about their swim.
Okay.
It'll be the bike courses for Colorado Tri, though. It won't feature Old Stage because of the impact with the construction.
But you still, well, depending on the construction, you might still use Old Stage for the...
It's not looking good.
Yeah.
No, my call this morning basically said...
Okay. So everything's kind of morphing into a different race in some ways.
Exactly. It's a lot of hits, and we're taking the balls and we're still juggling them. If people don't want to do that, if there's still fitness isn't there, they can't make July 12th, we're basically offering those people, you mentioned the $25 credit. We came up with the number of, if you were registered for the sprint, you can take a $30 credit to any race through the end of 2021.
Oh, okay.
If you're registered for the Olympic and you don't want to go to Boulder Peak, you get a $40 credit.
Oh, perfect.
And I know that's not a perfect solution. There's still going to be a lot of upset, angry people. Feel free to call me. Inbox is full. Because they're going to look at it and say, no, I paid X amount of dollars. I want that money back. And I wish that was a viable option. The way we were able to construct that number, I basically looked at it and said, all right, if I lose Xterra Lori, if I lose Tribella, if I lose the Peak, if I lose Steamboat Lake, I need a uniform policy that I can carry through the entire year, and basically gives me a baseline to ensure that events are still able to happen in 2021,
right.
And I'm still able to pay my staff for all the work they've done this year, and all the vendors for all the items, like you mentioned, coming in.
Yeah, well, I first of all, I just want to really applaud you for that, because you look at what the ski industry is doing right now, and they're not doing anything to offer anybody any empathy for losing some really awesome skiing. And all they do is keep coming out with discounts for next year's pass, and we're going to extend the date. I'm like, really?
I mean, the events have to make money.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't be in this business if I wasn't making money year to year.
Right.
But there's a big difference between events that put it on for the athlete, out of the passion for the community, and then money and profit is a secondary effect. And then you look at companies that are literally putting on events for the sole reason of generating profits. And you're seeing that very clearly now. And I'm not saying don't do their events. There's some amazing events. But I'm saying for us, it's about survival, and it's about making sure that we can deliver those same events next year to the community, and finding that balance. And it's a tough number to find a balance on.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what athlete behavior is going to be when this is all said and done. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are jonesing, just ready to get out there and compete again. And there's going to be a lot of people that are still scared, and that's okay too.
So speaking of that, are you looking at some other options to promote some safety that, let's just assume social distancing is going to be a new normal, at least for a while, and maybe are you going to modify some things in your mind right now, or what are you thinking?
We do have plans. I think we touched on
a
little bit last year, or our last talk.
Right.
Time trial start, putting out more bike racks so people can space themselves out, giving people the option after every race when they cross the finish line to grab their gear and go. But at a certain point, there's only so much you can do.
Right.
I mean, there's a risk inherent in everything we do.
Has the city or county, have they started talking about things that they're going to require at this point, or is it still too early?
It's a little early for that conversation, especially City of Boulder is a good example. So they've extended that deadline to June 15th. There is a possibility for that to be extended further, but any event between June 15th and July 15th is going to be reviewed on a case-by-case basis to make sure they do have some mitigation tactics in place. I mean, not every event's the same.
Right.
You look at a 20,000 person concert and a 500 person 5K, the risk factors are different. You have to look at them individually.
What about your stroke and strides? Where are those at?
So stroke and stride was the easy one. So stroke and stride, we were basically able to take all 3 that were affected by that June 15th deadline and tack them on to the end of the season.
Okay.
So those first 3 that are canceled will now happen in August. If we lose more because City extends that deadline, we will tack those on to the end too.
Okay.
So anyone who is registered for the single event for those first 3, we're basically giving them a full credit to then re-register for any stroke and stride they want. And we're saying wait. We've had emails from athletes saying, well, I know this is your cancellation entry fee policy. I'm worried about events selling out. And I'm like, don't be worried about don't be worried about anything selling out right now.
Right.
And they don't want to register. And I've told those athletes, wait.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. Once I have a concrete answer, you're going to have a concrete answer and feel comfortable registering.
So let's just switch gears a little bit. When our last talk happened, you offered some really great advice or mindset for people to think about. And I can truly say that I had got emails, I got comments, and I can't tell you how many people appreciated your words and the things that you gave them to think about how to get through this. What are, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, what else has come to your mind maybe to help people really navigate this tough time?
I mean, when I look at my own business, I look at, all right, what does it look like on the other side? Because there's going to be a new normal. It's not going to look like it did 3 months ago. And really, I think the future is bright. I truly, truly believe that. Even though we don't know what June's going to look like or July, I've kind of taken a renewed focus of, all right, let's focus on the little things again. You kind of get in this mindset of, well, let's do it like we did last year. Let's tweak a few things. But when I was forced to kind of go back to my mindset of 2007, when I started the company, it was focused on little things, even if we didn't have the ability to buy little things or implement little things. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah. Do you feel like this has kind of been parallel to maybe some of your aha moments of sustainability and proper use of resources?
I don't think there's been a more important time for those sustainability initiatives.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see a community as a whole supporting local businesses. I mean, I know my wife and I personally, we have some restaurants that we love going to because we know the owners. We know they're a mom and pop, husband and wife team, and we're still ordering from them. That's who we're supporting. Right. We're not supporting the giant chains. I mean, they're taking their hits too, but I think you're going to see that community-wide. I mean, I love the fact that bicycle shops are literally just doing repairs now and service work. Support local. I mean, to me, that's the message in all of this, because that's the backbone of our community. You look at the SBA loans and the government assistance, and I'm not making this political, but any business owner I've talked to, the money is not getting in their hands.
Right.
So what's going to keep them afloat and keep them moving forward literally is going to be supporting those local businesses here and there.
So thinking of 2020, what's the best decision you've made this year?
Best decision I've made this year? Went vegetarian before actually it was right after my Thailand trip.
Really?
Yep. And if it's funny, you look at the supermarkets right now and meat is sold out. And I just walk by that section and go, I'm good.
You're vegetarian.
Vegetarian.
So what do you feel? What are you feeling now that you're vegetarian? Just like from
I've gotten less sick. I do have more energy. I sleep a little bit better.
Wait, you already have more? You have enough energy. You don't need more.
It works for me. It's not going to work for everyone.
Okay.
For me, a lot of it was about eco-sustainability too. I said, you know what? If I'm going to implement all these things, I need to walk the same walk.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So when did you? So that was what, early February?
That was mid-January.
Mid-January. Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to try something new. See if I can get more energy or whatever. So let's just wrap up with a couple of questions we're going to hopefully start asking our other guests as we move on with the garage talks down the road. But tell me your favorite place in the world.
Favorite place? That's easy. Costa Rica.
Huh.
And really, so many of my eco initiatives came out of that country. As a culture, it is the most sustainable, happy place I've ever been in my entire life. The people there they're not tapped into their phones and the media and social media. They live life in the present moment. Huh. And second best decision I made in 2020, finally deactivated Facebook. To me, it just got so toxic from a personal standpoint of, I don't care about political rants one way or another, or all the fear mongering out there regarding the situation. I want positivity, love, and support.
So you don't have Lance Panigutti on Facebook is not around?
Right now, no.
No. I missed the cliff diving shots or whatever you used to do. Well, let's ask this question then. You're a race director. We all know we just heard some of the headaches that come with that, but there's a lot of things you love about it. If you weren't a race director, what would you be?
It's a great question. And it's one I've thought a lot about the last couple of weeks. And really, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm definitely more introverted. My wife is the extrovert. I've been fine working at home. Nothing's really changed for me in that regard, but I'd be a history professor. I actually went to college, University of Colorado at Boulder, on a Latin scholarship.
Latin scholarship.
And it's something I'm still passionate about. I still nerd out and read books on antiquity and ancient Samaria. I mean, you name it.
So is that period of history your favorite? The ancient world?
So I did my honors thesis on Roman culture around the 3rd century AD, if we really want to drill down and get specific.
I'm just curious. I love history too, yeah.
It's a period of time where the world changed so quickly, kind of like it is today. Yeah. And the world never went back to being the same.
What was the catalyst for that?
It was really the rise of Christianity.
Okay. That's a huge topic.
Whole garage talk right on that.
I mean, now we got BC before Corona, we got BC before Christ. I mean, now we got 2 BCs to deal with, right? Because life before BC now is going to be
completely different.
It's not going to go back anytime soon.
No, and if I could offer that one piece of advice to people out there, it's everyone's handling this situation differently. And whether you agree with it or not, you have to respect how people are handling it.
Right.
And that's going to help them get through it quicker in society as a whole.
Well, I mean, I personally think if someone wants to sit on the couch all day and binge watch whatever, just because they need that mental ability to decompress, because it does add a layer of stress no matter what, right? No matter if you have a job or you don't have a job, you have a business, whatever. So I totally agree.
We all have our good days and our bad days. I mean, my wife has heard me screaming from the office more times than you can imagine. Then 2 hours later, I'm in the bathtub taking a bubble bath in a puddle of tears. She's like, "You lost another one?" I'm like, "I lost another one. I'll figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow. Right now, I'm just going to wallow in my own misery for a little bit."
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of your conversations with some of your staff. You mentioned Lindsay, who I know from when I was in Thailand with Kim's wedding. But talk about some of the other staff or anybody some of the stories that are coming out.
One of the things I found, and I always knew this about the staff, but they are extremely extroverted. Every single one of them, Lindsay McGee, Trish Dixon, Olympia. I didn't realize the degree to which they are so extroverted, that the house arrest has essentially been the hardest on them because they want to see the athletes, they want to see each other. And really it's telling them to be patient and staying optimistic that we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that they have an event to work, our athletes have an event to go to, and we're all going to be one big happy family at the end of this, whatever that looks like.
So what have you learned about one of your staff that you didn't know that surprised you? Like, they might not know you love history so much, but what have you learned?
That's a great question. You're putting me on the spot, and
I know.
I don't really have a good answer.
That's okay. How about your wife? Have you learned anything about her that maybe you didn't know in all this?
I didn't realize the degree that she was so extroverted.
Really?
Yep.
Oh.
And she actually, for a job interview yesterday, had to take a personality test. And she's like 93% extrovert. I'm like, wow, I think I come in at 90% introvert.
So you guys been married, what, about a year?
Coming up on 2 years.
2 years, yeah, okay. And it's how's that changed you, do you think, being married?
I think it's relaxed me.
Yeah.
I mean, my friends that know me, Kenny, the videographer behind the lens there, they know me as a very fiery person, a very impatient person. So I think it's helped round me out and really see things from different perspectives.
Yeah, Kenny and I were talking about that actually. We were just somehow that came up in our conversation, and I said, "Yeah, I think it's just taking some of the edges off around Lance a little bit, and got people. He becomes more known and easier to know, and not that you weren't, but I just feel like I think there was it was interesting to see that a little bit from maybe being married. I wasn't sure.
And I think it's hard being a younger race director. I mean, this has been my career since I was 25. If you look at most race directors in the industry, they're older. They're 45, 50, 60 years old because it was a second and third career for them. So when I first started this, there was kind of an era of, well, I have to act a lot older than I actually am. Because I'm asking these towns and these mayors and police chiefs, let me shut down your roads. Let me clog up traffic for 3 hours. That's hard when you're a 25-year-old kid.
Do you see, I just thought of this, but do you see this as an opportunity to show how it can be done in this new environment and maybe how other people can succeed?
I think it's a collaborative approach. I mean, leaning on people like Peggy and Tim and Darren and Jill, those are the people that I want to see thrive, and I want to see the community recognize them for all the efforts they've done, because we're all going to make changes, but we're going to make changes together. Yeah. I mean, Tim has taught me things, and I've kind of taught him things that he wasn't aware of, and that's how we get better.
I think it'll be fun when we are more able to have more people, to have all of us together and talk about it.
One big garage talk, big group hug,
Yeah, exactly.
high fives.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. I guess I really thank you for being so transparent and talking about the Boulder Sports Chiropractic Colorado Tri that's morphing into kind of the peak for now, but it's a tough decision, I'm sure.
I mean, it was the hardest one. It's our biggest race of the year.
Right.
But we're going to get through it. And I ask those athletes for your patience as we do work through moving entries, extending those credits. And for all those athletes that offer those emails and social media support, I can't thank you enough. Right. I mean, when we made the announcement, if you go through the social media, Facebook comments, I mean, literally it brought me to tears yesterday morning because I said, you know what? Every single positive social media post literally helps me get through 10 angry emails. And I know that's an arbitrary number, but that's what it feels like.
Right. Oh, that's cool. Well, thanks for coming on Garage Talks, and we'll keep coming back, hopefully, but we won't look at it as a penalty box. We'll look at it as a opportunity garage or whatever.
Hopefully next time I see you, we're a lot closer, and it's a lot different situation.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming.